Good morning. I'm going to continue with Chapter 7. What if they won't play? It says use negotiation, jujitsu. Talking about interests. I got your windows down, boys. Talking about interests, options, and standards may be a wise, efficient, and amicable game. But what if the other side won't play? While you try to discuss interests, they may state their position in unequivocal terms. You may be concerned with developing possible agreements to maximize the gains of both parties. They may be attacking your proposals, concerned only with maximizing their own gains. You may attack the problem on its merits. They may attack you. What can you do to turn them away from positions and toward the merits? There are 3 basic approaches for focusing their attention on the merits. The first centers on what you can do. You yourself can concentrate on the merits rather than on positions. This method, the subject of this book, is contagious. It holds open the prospect of success to those who will talk about interests, options, and criteria. In effect, you can change the game simply by starting to play a new one. Okay, if this does not work, and they continue to use positional bargaining, you can resort to a second strategy, which focuses on what they may do. It counters the basic moves of positional bargaining in ways that direct their attention to the merits. This strategy we call negotiation jujitsu. The third approach focuses on what a third party can do. If neither principled negotiation nor negotiation jujitsu gets them to play, consider including a third party trained to focus the discussions on interests, options, and criteria. Perhaps the most effective tool a third party can use in such an effort is the one-text meditation procedure. The first approach, principled negotiation, has already been discussed. Negotiation jujitsu and the one-text procedure are explained in this chapter. The chapter ends with a dialogue based on an actual landlord-tenant negotiation that illustrates in detail how you might persuade an unwilling party to play using a combination of principled negotiation and negotiation jujitsu. All right, negotiation jujitsu. If the other side announces a firm position, you may be tempted to criticize and reject it. If they criticize your proposal, you may be tempted to defend it and dig yourself in. If they attack you, you may be tempted to defend yourself and counterattack. In short, if they push you hard, you will tend to push back. Yet if you do, you will end up playing the positional bargaining game. Rejecting their position only locks them in. Defending your proposal only locks you in. And defending yourself sidetracks the negotiation into a clash of personalities. You will find yourself in a vicious cycle of attack and defense, and you will waste a lot of time and energy in useless pushing and pulling. If pushing back does not work, what does? How can you prevent the cycle of action and reaction? Do not push back. When they assert their position, do not reject them. When they attack, When they assert their positions, do not reject them. When they attack your ideas, don't defend them. When they attack you, don't counterattack. Break the vicious cycle by refusing to react. Instead of pushing back, sidestep their attack and deflect it against the problem. As in the Oriental martial arts of Judo, Jiu-Jitsu, avoid pitting your strength against theirs directly. Instead, use your skill to step aside and turn their strength to your ends. Rather than resisting their force, channel it into exploring interests, inventing options for mutual gain, and searching for independent standards. How does negotiation jiu-jitsu work in practice? How do you sidestep their attack and deflect it against the problem? Typically, their attack will consist of 3 maneuvers: asserting their position forcefully, attacking your ideas, and attacking you. Let's consider... Mooks, are you okay, baby? Everything okay, baby? Okay. Typically, their attack will consist of 3 maneuvers: asserting their position forcefully, attacking your ideas, and attacking you. Let's consider how a principal negotiator can deal with each of these. All right. Do not attack their position. Look behind it. Okay. When the other side sets forth their position, neither reject it nor accept it. Treat it as one possible option. Look for the interests behind it. Seek out the principles which it reflects, and think about ways to improve it. All right, I read that, but I didn't hear it, so I'm going to do it again. Do not attack their positions. Look behind it. When the other side sets forth their position, neither reject it nor accept it. Treat it as one possible option. Look for the interests behind it. Seek out the principles which it reflects, and think about ways to improve it. Let's say you represent an association of teachers striking for higher pay and for seniority as the only criterion in layoffs. The school board has proposed a $2,000 raise across the board, plus retention of the right to decide unilaterally who gets laid off. Mind their position for the interests that lie below the surface. What exactly are the budget trade-offs involved in raising the salary schedule more than $2,000? Why do you feel a need to maintain complete control over layoffs? Okay. And then assume every position they take is a genuine attempt to address the basic concerns of each side. Ask them how they think it addresses the problem at hand. Treat their position as one option and objectively examine the extent to which it meets the interests of each party or might be improved to do so. There's the sun. How will the 2000 across the board increase keep our schools' salaries competitive with others in the area and thus assure that the students will have high quality teachers? How could you satisfy the teachers that your evaluation procedure for layoffs would be fair? We believe that you personally would be fair, but what would happen if you left? How can we leave our livelihoods and our families' well-being up to a potentially arbitrary decision? Seek out and discuss the principles underlying the other side's position. What is the theory that makes 2000 a fair salary increase? Is it based on what other schools pay or what others with comparable qualifications make? Do you believe that the town's least experienced teachers should be laid off first, or the most experienced, who, of course, have higher salaries? To direct their attention toward improving the options on the table, discuss with them, hypothetically, what would happen if one of their positions was accepted. In 1970, an American lawyer had a chance to interview President Nasser of Egypt on the subject of the Arab-Israeli conflict. He asked Nasser, "What is it you want Golda Meir to do?" Nasser replied, "Withdraw." "Withdraw?" the lawyer asked. "Withdraw from every inch of Arab territory." "Without a deal? Without nothing from you?" the American asked incredulously. "Nothing. It's our territory. She should promise to withdraw," Nasser replied. The Americans asked what would happen to Golda Meir if tomorrow morning she appeared on Israeli radio and television and said, "On behalf of the people of Israel, I hereby promise to withdraw from every inch of territory occupied in 67, the Sinai, Gaza, the West Bank, Jerusalem, the Golan Heights, and I want you to know I have no commitment of any kind from any Arab whatsoever." Nasser burst out laughing. Oh, would she have trouble at home? Understanding what an unrealistic option Egypt had been offering, Israel may have contributed to Nasser's stated willingness later that day to accept a ceasefire in the war of attrition. It's pretty. Do not defend your ideas. Invite criticism and advice. A lot of time in negotiation is spent criticizing. Rather than in resisting the other side's criticism, invite it. Instead of asking them to accept or reject any idea, ask them what's wrong with it. What concerns of yours would this salary proposal fail to take into account? Examine their negative judgments to find out their underlying interests and to improve your ideas from their point of view. Rework your ideas in light of what you learned from them, and thus turn criticism from an obstacle in the process of working toward agreements into an essential ingredient of that process. If I understand you, you're saying you can't afford to give 750 teachers more than 2,000 across the board raise. What if we accept that with the stipulation that any money saved by hiring fewer than 750 full-time teachers will be distributed as a monthly bonus to those teachers who are working? Another way to channel criticism in a constructive direction is to turn the situation around and ask for their advice. Ask them what they would do if they were in your position. If your jobs were at stake, what would you do? Our members are feeling so insecure about their jobs and frustrated by their shrinking dollars. They're talking about inviting a militant union in to represent them. If you were leading this association, how would you act? Thus, you lead them to confront your half of the problem. In doing so, they may be able to invent a solution that meets your concerns. Part of the problem here seems to be that the teachers feel no one is listening. Would it help to have regular sessions at which teachers could meet with the school board? Here we go. Recast an attack on you as an attack on the problem. When the other side attacks you personally, as frequently happens, resist the temptation to defend yourself or to attack them. Instead, sit back and allow them to let off steam. Listen to them. Show you understand what they are saying. And when they have finished, recast their attack on you as an attack on the problem. When you say that a strike shows we don't care about the children, I hear you're concerned about the children's education. I want you to know that we share this concern. They are our children and our students. We want the strike to end so we can go back to educating them. What can we both do now to reach an agreement as quickly as possible? And the final one I'm going to read today. We're about halfway through, I think. Okay, no, we're about a third. Ask questions and pause. Those engaged in negotiation jiu-jitsu use two key tools. The first is to use questions instead of statements. Statements generate resistance, whereas questions generate answers. Questions allow the other side to get their points across and let you understand them. They pose challenges and can be used to lead the other side to confront the problem. Questions offer them no target to strike at, no position to attack. Questions do not criticize, they educate. Do you think it would be better to have teachers operating in a process they felt they were participating in, or actively resisting one they felt was imposed upon them and failed to take their concerns into account? Silence is one of your best weapons. Use it. If they have made an unreasonable proposal or an attack you regard as unjustified, the best thing to do may be to sit there and not say a word. If you have asked an honest question to which they have provided an insufficient answer, just wait. People tend to feel uncomfortable with silence, particularly if they have doubts about the merits of something they have said. For example, if a teacher representative asks, "Why shouldn't teachers have a say in layoff policy?" the school board chairman might find himself at a loss. Layoffs are a purely administrative matter. Well, of course, teachers have an interest in layoff policy, but they really aren't the best qualified to know who is a good teacher. What I mean is, silence often creates the impression of a silence often creates the impression of a stalemate, which the other side will feel impelled to break by answering your question or coming up with a new suggestion. When you ask questions, pause. Do not take them off the hook by going right on with another question or some comment of your own. Some of the most effective negotiating you will ever do is when you are not talking. All right, we're on page 112. And this one. Let's see. So yeah, we'll go from 112 to 128 to finish off chapter 7. I've been reading to you the book, Getting to Yes, and showing you the beautiful sun. Our next part will be consider the one text procedure. And remember, I have not read all of this book, so I am thankful for you joining me. And I look forward to continuing. I appreciate you.